ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਮੈਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰੂੰਗਾ। ਸਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ਮਸਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਹੋਂਦ ਦਾ ਆ, ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਗੰਭੀਰ ਆ। ਤੇ ਵਨ ਕੋਸਟ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਕੋਸਟ ਤੱਕ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਸਟੋਰੀਆਂ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਮਤਲਬ ਮੈਂ ਵੈਂਕੂਵਰ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਮੌਂਟਰੀਅਲ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ। ਹਰੇਕ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਇਹ ਉੱਠ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ। ਸੋ ਬਾਕੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਇਲੈਕਟਡ ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲਸ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਵਾਬਦੇਹ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਮਸਲੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਸੋ ਆਮ ਗੋਇੰਗ ਟੂ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਆਊਟ ਔਨ ਬਿਹਾਫ ਆਫ ਦ ਵਰਲਡ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ to try and put us all on the same page when it comes to how we see this issue and what we think are the foundational facts that everyone needs to be clear on. So for us, as a Sikh community, we've lived with foreign interference and transnational oppression for the past 40 years. For 40 years, our community has known that India targets members of our community, whether that's for visa coercion, economic coercion, or even assassination. But for us, it was a foundational moment, it was a transformational moment when on October 14th, 2024, our RCMP, elected officials and government officials made some things very clear. So these aren't things that I am saying, these are the things that our government and police have told us. So let me go through them. The RCMP announcement said that homicides, extortions, and violent acts in Canada were linked to agents of the government of India, that there were over a dozen credible threats to pro-Khalistan Sikhs in Canada, that there's been interference in democratic processes, and that India has used the Bishnoi gang as a proxy to create fear in Sikh communities. And I'm going to quote from what Prime Minister Trudeau said. This is literally a quote from him. He said, "It seems like folks within the Indian government have decided to create violence and unlawfulness in Canada as a way of demonstrating the point that they're trying to make. And that point is that Canada is lawless, insecure." We learned from the RCMP that Indian diplomats and consular officials were involved in clandestine intelligence gathering, and that Canadians and businesses were being coerced and threatened to gather information for India. And when the RCMP and senior Canadian officials presented evidence to their Indian counterparts, India refused to cooperate, and as a result, six Indian diplomats were thrown out of Canada for suspected roles in criminal activities. That's what we learned from our government officials. And I want to go through some other facts. These are facts. The first fact is that the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister, David Morrison, testified that India's Home Minister, Amit Shah, who is the right-hand man of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, had personally ordered the campaign of violence and intelligence gathering against Sikhs in Canada. This is not me saying it. This is the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister of Canada. That India's Home Minister, Amit Shah, has directly ordered these activities here in Canada. The next is our NSIA, Natalie Drouin, her testimony in front of a parliamentary committee. She said that India collected intelligence on Sikhs in Canada through diplomatic channels and proxies, then passed it on to Indian authorities who were working with the Lawrence Bishnoi gang to commit criminal activities and hits here in Canada. This is our NSIA saying that the Bishnoi gang is being directly influenced and directed by the government of India. One other fact that I'd like to share with you. So with Prime Minister Carney coming to power, in May 2025, the Privy Council office, before Prime Minister Carney's first call with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, sent a briefing note which said that Canada would require a public commitment from India on accountability efforts to be mutually agreed upon. Public accountability measures. We haven't seen any of that. And the final fact that I'd like to share with you is that despite the fact that India's new High Commissioner to Canada insists very publicly that India has never engaged in foreign interference or transnational repression, in June 2025, this year, the Indian government appointed Parag Jain, a former Punjab police officer accused of extrajudicial killings, torture, as the new head of its intelligence wing, RAW. And the most interesting thing there is that he was posted in Ottawa as a diplomat from 2015 to 2018. This is a fact, that a former Ottawa Indian diplomat who was accused of killing Sikhs, torturing Sikhs, is now head of India's RAW, their intelligence body. These are facts. So what is our current situation? Our current situation is that India-based and directed criminal activities, in fact, a crime wave, is taking place across this country. There are hundreds of victims. Hundreds of victims. In fact, the vast majority of victims, in fact, some of you who have approached me today and aren't willing to speak publicly are telling me their stories and saying that we don't know what to do. No one takes any sort of action. We feel insecure. There are ongoing duties to warn being given and no substantive protections. And literally, when a duty to warn is given, this means that someone's life is in imminent danger. And when, I'm going to quote someone, he is a member of a community organization. When he asked, "What should I do?" the answer was, quote unquote, "You gotta do what you gotta do." And our Indian High Commissioner, who has now followed the Sikhs that were kicked out for criminal activities, has now arrived in Canada and is giving interview after interview, spreading disinformation that India never did anything in terms of foreign interference, never targeted anyone in this country. And the question that we are all here to examine and ask is that, is this not second-class citizenship? Why do our lives seem to matter less? And I've given this example before. If the Russian government employed Russian gangs to target Ukrainian dissidents here in Canada and killed some of them, would our government be re-engaging with Russia on oil? Would we be inviting President Putin to come here and have a weekend in the mountains? If a rabbi was shot dead in a synagogue parking lot by the regime in Iran, would we be re-engaging with Iran and inviting the Ayatollah here? Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot dead in a Gurdwara parking lot as a symbol of what India can do here to Sikhs in Canada, to frighten us, to silence us. And they don't seem to understand that we'll never be frightened and we'll never be silenced. But what is our government doing about this situation? And that's what we're here to ask our elected officials and hear from our other police officials and municipal and provincial politicians. So thank you for everyone for coming, and now I'll pass it on to Prabjot Singh, who will speak on behalf of the Sikh Federation.